G'day, mates. Well, Saudi Arabia, it's ruining lives. I mean, people are leaving clubs left, right, and centre. No one is safe. The transfer window, it continues to wreak havoc. But in good news, Europe, it's not too far away. The Jupiler League kicks off in probably, just a couple of weeks. Look, the American madness is well and truly underway. They're scoring bangers of goals left, right, and centre. But
G'day, mates.
well, here we are. The Sorare Downunder boys in the flesh.
In the flesh. I've got my Melbourne jersey on. I am in Melbourne. It's cold, it's overcast, it's grey, but wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
So where the bloody hell are you?
I'm just waiting for a mate.
Next to a very swole-looking Simon.
So either I have hit the gym every day in Europe while I've been away,
You're nothing but the giant muscle.
or Alistair, you forgot that Japanese sizes don't exactly correlate to that of the everyday Australian male, because
No.
this medium, which mediums normally fit quite nicely, is giving a fair
taut.
little tug to the old biceps and chest region.
Yeah, no, look, the thought was there. I thought, I'll get Simon a little early birthday present. We all know how much we both love the GOAT Sho Sasaki. He scored 100 the other week, and I was like, I think we need to get ourselves, a little commemorative jersey. Didn't take into account that in Japan, Simon would be considered somewhat of a behemoth.
A giant man amongst the regular folk, they would say.
Yeah, so, unless Simon does some serious weight loss, this is what we're stuck with. He kind of looks like a kind of strange, puffy midget. So we'll push on.
Might actually take a quick break to get changed. It's very tight. It's actually really uncomfortable.
I'll hold the fort. Oh. Take his clothes off.
All right.
Much better.
Back into the trusty Wolfsburg green.
The underdogs. So Simon, tell me, how's your week of Sorare been?
Yeah, look, it's after the roller coaster of 2 weekends ago, sort of back to normality, back to not winning, but it's a regular, safe feeling. I think I actually prefer it because I start the weekend off, players are out, they score 20 points, and there's no hope. It's kind of the hope that kills you, as we've found. So it's kind of been nice just losing without too much fuss.
You flew too close to the sun, and now you basically just are never going to shoot for those stars again.
But just entering 240 lineups forever. Yeah. I don't even want to get near a podium.
We did have the conversation this weekend. You had what was potentially, again, probably much the same kind of, probably actually a stronger lineup than the one that finished in the top 50 with a few weekends ago. But you decided to err on the side of absolute safety, and you've just rolled out the most vanilla Cat 240 team of all time. So I guess it's safe to say you're excited for Europe to come back.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want anyone that's got the potential to go big. I want my Kota Watanabes, your Jamiro Monteros, who don't go anywhere near the ball or anywhere near a goal-scoring situation. I want them to just plot around, get me a nice 45, and it makes me feel safe. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Well, you should be afraid of taking risks and pursuing something meaningful.
It mightn't be a bad strategy, actually, to go for those middle-of-the-road plotters, because we all know what happens if you start scoring goals and, getting a bit of repute about your name. You just go to Saudi Arabia.
Just go to Saudi Arabia.
So, look, whilst, people might laugh at your lineup of Mauricio Pereira, Johnny Russell, and, Milton Casco, that might be the only players left on the platform in a couple of months' time. It's absolute chaos out there at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, during the week, it was announced that Dusan Tadic, I know we've spoken about him. I was going to get one in, ready for Europe. Free agent, wants to leave Ajax. So,
yeah,
no longer the rule number one.
Yeah, it's quite strange to see all his, heartfelt videos and tributes and stuff that he's making to the club. And it's like, you decided to leave. You were not happy. You thought the club was shit. You thought they didn't bring in enough good enough players. So you bailed. So I think there's going to be a lot of Sorare managers that are waiting with bated breath to see where Dusan goes. I mean, you were going to buy one. So I think the moral of this story at the moment is that until, like, what is it, mid-September when the transfer window ends, I don't think we should be buying anyone. No one's safe. If Dusan Tadic, I would have put him up as, like, the safest player on the platform to buy. And he's gone.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're like, oh, he's got a contract, he's locked in.
He's the captain.
And then he's just
the heart and soul of Ajax.
Because he's the kind of player I could totally see going to Saudi.
Yeah,
100%.
towards the end of his career.
Towards the end of his career, still like a big name.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. I think if he goes to Saudi, there's going to be some riots. There's going to be some Sorare community riots. So fingers crossed he stays and goes somewhere decent, because it would be a shame to see such a Sorare goat die.
A few minutes later.
Well, I didn't know all that, so I'm sorry.
Maybe a good tactic for scouting Sorare players at the moment is, like, follow them on Instagram, and if they seem like they're all about the Benjamins, baby, they're all about the, the jewelry and the cars and the mansions, they're probably going to go to Saudi Arabia.
Good point. It's a good point, because like the money is just ridiculous. I mean, Jordan Henderson's rumored to be going there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just gobbling them up left, right, and center.
What you want is a man, like a nice family man, lots of pictures of dogs, backyards, birthday cakes, a real Jussie Zardes type.
Got the postcode tattooed on his wrist.
That's it. Jussie Zardes is not going to Saudi Arabia, I can guarantee it. He's too much of a family man.
Yeah, exactly. It's one thing we know about Jussie is just loves to nice and humble, lay low.
Absolutely. All right, so we're in Melbourne. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, okay, please talk about Melbourne. I've got something to bring up.
No, you go then. I didn't know where I was going to go with that.
We are in Melbourne.
I was winging it.
Now, I was going to say some very exciting news for you in the midweek. Your golden boy, your special, special boy.
He's my special boy!
You've been holding on to that super rare. Xavier Mercier is leaving the Hungary Football League. There couldn't be better news than that.
Well, I mean, again, my streak of buy-lows, Justin buy-lows, sell Hayes, is unmatched. It was just last week that I was saying, buy your Xavier Merciers, go out there. I think he was like 0.01 at the time. He's leaving Hungary. There's a strong chance he comes back to Belgium. And yeah, the word on the street is that he's going to sign for the newly promoted team in Belgium. So
hang on, you're saying he could be a main man?
He could be a main man.
He could very well be a main man. And there's one thing we know, Alcy, you love a main man.
I do love a main man.
That's not your mother, it's a man, baby! Yeah! Come on!
No, it's exciting. It's exciting. I think his super rare is still very cheap.
Very cheap, yeah. I think you could do a lot worse. We will talk a little bit about kind of some budget picks coming up, but I think Xavier Mercier is one who he's quality, loves a good free kick, loves a banger from distance. So yeah, it was great news. It's always nice to know that you haven't completely thrown money down the drain.
Yeah, it is nice. It is really nice. Now, I must say, I mean, it's pretty well publicized how much I hate the American season, the MLS, trying to play Sorare and MLS, in my opinion, just doesn't work. Maybe I've just got bad strategy, rolling out a Mauricio Pereira and that. But I will say, I don't know if you saw the video on Instagram of the goals of the year contenders. Some absolute bangers.
Absolute bangers. Which one was your personal favourite?
I mean, the Armada free kick was pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
That's when you look at someone, you're like, that's not just like you've put one on the volley, a bit of a lucky shot. Like he's too good. He's too good for this level.
Almada goes for it. Thiago Almada!
yeah, that was ridiculous, and he seems to do that every week as well, which is bonkers. There's some good ones in there. There was one. Simon rolls his eyes, but it's true. There was one goal in there, Miguel Berry's goal. We'll share the highlights reel with everyone. I've scored an exactly identical goal to that.
He's full of shit!
I think in your message you're like, I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but I did that.
Yeah, I did. That's basically my goal. It's just, Miguel Berry doing it instead of me.
Romney able to get his head to it, only as far as Barry. Miguel Barry!
him being a professional footballer, you playing in some Sunday Arvo league. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, Wednesday night league.
So
But yes, Europe is back.
yes,
Next weekend, Jupiler League is back. So you'll have 2 keepers.
Conjacaro back in. Let's go.
That's if I'm assuming he's still.
Yeah, well, who knows? Actually, haven't heard anything about him, so maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm only one piece that I really do like the idea of a Ghent stack this year. Really liking the look of their lineup, especially if they can manage to hold on to Kuipers. I think they'll probably sell Gift Orban, but if they've got Kuipers up front, Tissoudali is a player that I've had my eye on. He's coming back from an ACL, could be a good one to pick up. Pair them up with my Julian Dessart, maybe get a Sven Coombs in there just for fun.
Isn't he like 40 now?
Yeah, but he's, quality never ages, mate. Not the cum master.
What? I haven't heard that before.
That's what he's known to, by his family. he's known to his family as the cum master. He's the master of the cum's household.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still want to hang out, despite that joke.
Okay. Alrighty. So, what have we got this week?
Well, I think it's sort of looking towards Europe. So it's basically, at the moment, we've got Jubilee League, and then what comes back after that?
I think there's like Jupiler League, the Croatian League comes back a little early. I think the Danish League comes back next weekend. The Danish League comes back. Then I think there's like 2 or 3 weeks before all the rest come back. So like Eredivisie, Portuguese League is kind of like mid-August.
So we're pretty close to that all kicking back. Are you sort of happy with your strategy that you've done I remember a little while ago you were like, I'm not going to try and improve on my gallery. I'm just going to sit tight until Europe. Do you think that's been the right play in hindsight, looking back now?
I think so. I think the plan has always been to just like use the pieces I have, try and win some ETH, win some cards, try and turn those super rares into ETH, which has been a little bit difficult. Not everyone wants to buy your Sergio Santos super rare. So I knew that was going to be an issue with the liquidity of going all super rares, is that you can't just send them out the door. Even for like bargain prices, people are just like, I don't need that super rare. So, but my plan kind of is to, once we get to Europe, is maybe try and see if I can swap some of those super rares for some rares, which will then allow me to sell them on. So it's kind of my path to liquidity, even if I have to take a bit of a hit price-wise on them. If they're not super rares that I need for my strategy, then I'll just try and move them on any way I can. And yeah, the plan once Europe comes back is to run a really strong all-star team. I should have enough for a good 240 team and possibly a pretty good America team as well. So, and then plan is to just keep hitting those thresholds. I've been building up thresholds over the last couple of months with the idea that I'm going to try and pick up some premium European players. Maybe I probably need another midfielder and a forward, once the season gets going. But I'm not going to be buying anyone until September. I can be telling you that. Because the last thing you want to do is spend big money on a super rare that then goes and dies in Saudi. So
didn't you do that with Xavier Mercier?
I did. Yeah.
Just a reminder.
This was, before these young kids today with Saudi, they've got it easy. I did do with Hungary. That was my cross to bear back in the day. The Hungarian league, snapping up all the best and brightest.
Now, you mentioned before, you're saying about the Genk stack, with Kuipers. Ghent. The Ghent stack with Kuipers and co. It sort of brings out what we were talking about today is, I guess, like, are stacks dead? Are stacks still a thing, just given how many points you need to hit a podium? I mean, it's pretty well publicized that what you need to score to get a proper good reward now is significantly gone up, where I feel like stacks in the early days, you could really have great success. Because I saw on Twitter, like, earlier this week, they were saying that, like, even the worst teams, like the Chicago Fire, I think that PSU fans had, was like, once or twice a season, they're going to have that 4-0 win.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
But do you want to win once or twice a season, or do you want to, and this comes back to the idea of, like, what do you want to win? Do you want to win podiums, or do you want to be regularly churning out tier 2s, tier 3s, that with the occasional tier 1 thrown in? I think last year people who had a Benfica stack or a FC20 stack just cleaned up all year because it was just a combination of strong, dominant team in a pretty easy league. And each of the players, it was an easy stack to make because they had really high scoring, so rare players. Like, even if you look at Ajax last year, they were pretty hard to stack because they never kept any clean sheets, even though they're Ajax. They didn't really have a good midfielder that like smashed every week. Obviously, they had Tadic up front, and he was reliable. But even like the defenders, there wasn't that like Jurian Timber kind of overpowered backline that they used to have. So a lot of people before the start of last season would have been, building up their Ajax stacks, and then it turns out it was actually Benfica and 20 who smashed. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there who are buying Benfica stacks and 20 stacks right now, but there's no guarantee that those teams are going to be any good this year.
So that's always been my issue with the stacks. I think you can't stack before a season because it's just too up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny how you say some teams are more stackable than others. For example, Wolfsburg, probably not the most stackable team, I think we found out that you can stack, and even when they win, we're like, oh, we're not even close to like a reward.
This year I don't actually... Yeah, that's a very good point. Even when they win, it's like, this year probably a little bit better. Cherney's coming in, Maxi Arnold's always... Anyway, we're not talking about Wolfsburg right now. But it is interesting, like, people forget that the season before last, Benfica weren't very good. They never kept a clean sheet. I remember because I had a Vertonghen Super Rare and I had an Otamendi, and they always lost their clean sheet, like in the last, 10 minutes or so. And they weren't anywhere near as dominant as they were this last season.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are trying to like get ahead and trying to pick up their stacks now to save money. But I would almost argue that it's better to wait until the season starts, not just see who's in form, because obviously some teams can start strong and you can't judge a team based on the first few weeks of the season, but what you can kind of judge is how consistent their team is. And if you've got those locked in starters every single week, like Sanfrecce Hiroshima, we obviously only own a Sasaki each, but we know every week what that team's going to be. They're super reliable. The coach has come out and said, I'm not resting any players. We're going to win everything. And they're playing every single week, and we're training to play every single week. So I think after the first month or so of the season, the transfer window will be done, and you can buy with confidence.
You can actually go to sleep at night knowing that,
That's right. B, you'll kind of get a feel for how the coach is playing with new players coming in, new formations, like how's that translating to a Sorare score? Can you actually be confident? Because the best thing in Sorare is to be confident and just be like, I know that these 5 are playing. There's something tragic has to happen for this guy to be a DNP,
It's funny because you sort of get lulled into a false sense of security in a way, because I remember there was a stage where I was having a real issue with DNPs, aka my Eduardo days, and so on and so on. Whereas there was a little purple patch there for a while where you start to roll out the same team, and you might do a small check, but you're not constantly scrolling through Twitter just to try and find any news, because you just know that they're going to start. And you don't want that stress otherwise.
No. Funnily enough, that Yokohama team has now been like unchanged all season. Like the coach has just been like, no, this is the team now. Whereas last year they were an awful team to stack because they changed every single week, even their best players. So you look at Benfica, you look at 20, they're probably going to have completely different teams to what they had last year. So I think stacking a team can be good if they are a reliable, in-form, dominant team, because you don't necessarily need them to like go off. You don't need a 5-0 win to do well if you've got 5 good Sorare scorers just playing on a strong team.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, because you look at Man City, constantly dominating.
Terrible team
but if you went the centre-back and the goalkeeper, I don't think they barely ever keep a clean sheet at all.
That's right. So,
and that's where it gets back to with the full team stacks. If you don't get that clean sheet and the centre-back to go with the guys that smash, it's over. You get 45 from your centre-back, goodbye, see you next week.
A 5-1's no good to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is one of the benefits of Europe, is that there's more information out there, so you can pick your teams with a little bit more confidence, and usually there's less of that kind of random rotation that you get in the MLS that you get in the J League, that kind of thing. So, so I don't know. I'm not picking a team just yet to like stack. I like the look of Ghent, and last year they were very consistent with their lineups. So if that stays like that, and if no one gets a move, then that could be a team that I wouldn't mind getting behind, just because I've already got the Desart super rare. So you're going.
Oh, but I just wanted to touch on one of your points you made. Was it's funny how the minor changes can have such a difference on Sorare scores. For example, if someone was the main man, but then they start splitting the duties, if you're Johnny Russell and you get taken off the penalties, but even just a small change in terms of moving further down the pitch. Look at Tom Hay, for example, him actually playing as a proper midfielder higher up the pitch wasn't actually working Sorare-wise as well for him. But when he plays deeper,
CDM,
he's actually like racking up the score. Whether that means he's actually playing better or not, I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, and I think this is a very valuable bit of advice, I think, for anyone who wants to play Sorare.
Gather round. Not you, non-bred.
And I know I'm certainly guilty of this, is not to just go off their Sorare data scores. You really do need to understand what their role is, what their role is within the team, like how the coach wants to use them, and how that affects their Sorare scores. Because if that changes, that's when you can... If you know the team well and you see that your midfielder who's been taking sets and is playing high up the pitch has now been moved to right back, you can maybe try and get out of that player before his scores start to drop off. So understanding those teams, and that's why stacking is good if you can hone in on a league, hone in on one team, just get to know them inside and out, which hopefully we'll do with Wolfsburg this year.
Yeah, we've got to actually watch some more games.
I have been trying to dig around the Wolfsburg forums, but it's all in German, so it's... It's a bit of a struggle so far, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think I'm probably my own worst enemy in a way for not putting in the work to watch my players. Whereas it's a really good point when you're just relying on the scores, whereas in the one team that I do watch a lot of is Austin. So when I knew that Gerisi was getting that move to more of like a number 10 role, I was a bit like, I don't think this is going to work as well if he doesn't have the pieces around him, which has turned out to be the case.
He's just doing Rabona passes to
the
no
most
one.
Unnecessary Rabona passes.
Every week.
Like he got that first one. Look, I'll admit the first one was pretty cool. It was a good through ball to for Goodness or something who stuffed up the shot. Last week, he's like putting a cross in for no reason. And my favorite thing is that when they cut up the highlight, they do the Rabona and they just cut it because it just goes to no one. Like it just missed everyone at the far post.
Yeah, cut that bit there.
Yeah.
Cut the bit where it just flies over him right there. Jassy Zardes is on his back.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking of the upcoming season, I thought we'd start a little, weekly segment or regular segment just in the lead up to the season where try and look at each of the different Sorare divisions and pick out some kind of bargain team. If you're someone who's coming in with a bit of a budget, this is on a rare level. I think we don't really talk about limiteds because we've been
those are still a
so
thing.
Horribly. I think with limiteds, it's a different kettle of fish. You really do need the absolute superstars. So I'm focusing on rares here for anyone who's looking to invest a little bit more. The idea is to try and come up with a team for under half an ETH for each of the different divisions. So I'll do Champion America, we'll do Challenger, Second Division, just kind of work through. So these are a couple of players that I've picked from the Challenger division that I think, obviously you'll need some depth around these players, but as a basic team, I think this would be a good starting point for anyone who wants to move into rares. Now it's time for everyone's favourite segment, Podiums for Pennies. Oh, you cheap bastard. So what we've done at the back here is we've gone with a Vitesse defensive stack, which I'll admit doesn't sound too promising. Doesn't sound that exciting.
They're not known for their defensive fortitude.
No, look, they're a mid to lower table team in the Eredivisie, but they will still have the opportunity to bash up on some lower ranked teams from time to time. So their goalkeeper is, well, according to rumours, hasn't been confirmed yet, but it sounds like it's a done deal. Eloy Room from Columbus.
No way.
Is actually signed for Vitesse. You can pick him up for about 0.18 at the moment. You probably get him for a little bit less than that with a bit of haggling. Sounds like he's signed to come in and be the starter there. So I think that could be a good pickup. He's a good keeper, a little bit older, but
It seems like a strange move at 34. I wouldn't have expected him to be going to Europe now.
Yeah, making his big move.
Leaving it late.
I think with goalkeepers, I mean, obviously, if you want a goalkeeper from a really strong team, you're going to have to pay probably more than half an eighth just for the goalkeeper. So, but at the end of the day, a goalkeeper's a goalkeeper. You know, if you're looking to, this team is not necessarily designed to, like, again, win you podiums every week. But if you can be churning out tier 2s, tier 3s, tier 4s, you know, you're going to pretty quickly make back that investment. Okay, so to stack with Elo Room, we've gone with one of my favourites, Maxi Widak. Finished the season on an absolute heater last year. I think he had scores of, like, where are they? Let's get him up. Get him up.
Good Lord.
Yeah, he's got an L15 of like, L5 of 86. So he finished with scores of 89, 81, 81, 181. And I know this is what he can do. He can also give you a 10. He can also give you a 5 or a 22 in a 2-0 win. Because he's a super attacking left back, takes all the sets, takes all the corners for them. You know I love a main man. And the reason I've stacked him with Room is that, yep, some weeks you're just going to bunk out and they're going to lose 4-0 and, your game week's over. But when they get that clean sheet, when Widak gets that assist or, gets those attempted assists, you're looking at a massive score. You're hopefully looking at like a 70 or an 80 from Room and then hopefully that 80 plus from Widak, and then you're absolutely set from there. So it's not going to be the best defensive stack that's going to set you up every week, but it's got that real upside that I think if you're on a budget, you really do need if you want to try and get up into those higher echelons.
And you can sort of play the matchups as well.
Yeah.
If you know that they've got a really strong matchup, then maybe put them in a 240 or something like that.
That's it, yeah. If they're coming up against Feyenoord, chuck them in 240 and, you should be right. Okay, so now I think ideally I'd want to stay kind of all within the same league, but that was probably a little bit tricky. But I have got one other player from the Jupiler League, which is Jeffrey Harrimans. Always just kind of blows my mind that this guy's as cheap as he is. He's takes all sets at Mechelen. He's a good player. I've actually watched him play. He does look like a kind of a bit of a step above. He's not that old. He's just re-signed with them through to the end of 2025. He's just very consistent and always kind of decisive, dangerous. If you have a look at his scores there, lots of greens in there. And even without the greens, he's, getting relatively decent AA, so he's not going to ruin things for you. So these are the kind of players that I love that are like, they play the same role as, a Kochu, not on as strong a team, but they've still got super decisive, capable, week in, week out. So Jeffrey, get him in.
Alongside Rob Scouse.
Yeah, Rob Scouse. Well, he took the set pieces off Rob Scouse. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of sharing duties this year because Rob Scouse was injured for most of last year. So Rob Scouse is another one that I would say is probably a pretty good pickup as well.
Don't sleep on Rob Scouse.
Don't sleep on Scousey. Okay. The other midfielder, so I've got two midfielders in this. Again, looking for that real high upside. Eden Visca is my pick. So he's, again, another one of these players who injured for most of last season, came back towards the end. Well, he was, I think, like their MVP the year before when they won the league. So he's obviously super important to their team. He's just re-signed with them again, so you're safe. He's not going to go, running off to Hungary. Bakasetas was the main man last year. He kind of stepped up when Visca left. There's plenty of rumours going around that Bakasetas will leave and go to another club, in which case Visca is back in and he's your main man. But I think the promising thing for me is that even at the end of last season when he was back, he wasn't on any sets. He was still kind of playing second fiddle to Bakasetas, and he still scored really well. Still got some good AA, some good... where are the scores there? Yeah, so he came back for a couple of games. Goals, assists, good AA, like up in the 20s kind of AA. So for 0.08, I think he's an absolute bargain. And if we look at his price graph as well, pretty sure when he was kind of at his peak, which probably would have been over a year ago. Yeah. So he's rare sold for 1.4 ETH back in July of 2022. So
football champagne's really hoping he gets back to his best.
That's it. Yeah, he's got some.
That 1.4 ETH.
Commiserations, football champagne. He dropped off obviously after his injury, but there's no reason why he can't get back to some pretty high prices as well. So it could even be one that you flip, midway through the season.
Is flipping dead? Just quickly.
It is for me. It's hard because I see so many opportunities like the Xavier Mercier where I'm like, I know this is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
But I've just been burnt so many times before. But I've also had some of my best success stories have been players that I've just taken a punt on and they've come good because you either watch them play or you know something about them that other people don't, Like Xavier Mercier, no one's following his progress except for people who own his card.
Yeah.
So when we see those kind of updates, we're like, everyone's sleeping on Xavier, so you take those punts. I wish I could do it more, but I think my strategy over the last year has definitely been like just focus on quality. I think eventually I want to try and move into getting quality players that are like evergreen. So players that are already at the top of their game, playing for the big clubs in the Premier League, Barcelona, etc., etc. That's kind of my end
Into
goal.
Miami.
Into Miami, exactly. My goal is to get those players where it doesn't really matter what their situation is. They're going to be kind of household names. They're going to have some value because I think where we're both at the moment is these players that as soon as their situation changes, they're just dead.
Yeah, completely reliant on the scores. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So a long-term view is to get into that and away from where I am currently. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think flipping's dead, but it's certainly, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, like flipping used to be so much more of a thing when prices were just crazy because you could just pick up anyone who had a knee injury, you could buy them, and then you knew they were going to be like 8 times the price. Whereas now people do factor in a little bit more about like, is this actually a good player or not?
Yes, and I think because the demand's not there, it's not like people are just snapping them up left, right, and centre. I mean, you look at Mercier, like that news has come out that he's leaving a non-covered league. If that was a year and a half ago, his super rare, even though like people might not even bought it, but its floor would be well up. Whereas like we go, oh, big news, he's coming out of Hungary, and I looked and it was like lower than what it was 2 days ago, and I was like, but I've been burnt from flipping. I mean, I bought Joseph Martinez because I said, oh, when Lionel Messi signs for him, his price will skyrocket. Lionel Messi has signed for them. He's done the thing that we weren't sure was going to happen. And he's still worth nothing.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. You can predict what's going to happen, but you can't predict the prices going up as you used to be able to.
Yeah, you could rely on it in the past. Yeah. So it's too much risk.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. So the final puzzle piece in this challenger team is Thibaut Sommers from Cercle Bruges. Fits all the bills for me, really. He's under 0.1 ETH. Good AA, regularly hits that kind of 14, 15, 16 AA. Pretty decisive, capable. He's 24. From all accounts, he's not like on the move anytime soon. But yeah, I think as a forward, you want that player where when they score a goal, they're going to be scoring 80, 85. Like you just need that from your forward. If you're playing on a budget, you need someone that's going to have the capability of hitting those high scores. And this guy does it, if you look at those scores, pretty much every second week he's hitting an 80 or an 83. So, yeah, very solid player.
That'll be what I'm going to look into, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some like transfer risk priced into that. I don't know. I haven't followed him that closely, but, looking at those scores, that's, you'd pay a lot more for something like that in Champ Europe. So, yeah. So that's my team. We've got the Vitesse stack, Harrimans from Mechelin. You could also sub in Scoopsy if you wanted to, or have him as depth.
Don't sleep on Scoos.
Yep. Eden Viska is one where I think his price is going to rise once he kind of gets back to doing what he's doing with full health. And then Thibaut Sommers up front.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with the stacking, the defensive stack obviously makes sense, but I don't hate the idea of bringing people in from other leagues. I think if you're trying to just pull from the same team, like. Again, you might be trying to make something that's not there.
Yeah, and I was looking at the European calendar, and all the leagues pretty much play the same weekends.
Yeah. There's no Chile league where it's like they're off for 6 weeks, middle of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back, play 1 week, miss another 2. And as well, you don't have the issue is Visca is not going to have to come up against room. There's nothing worse than when your forward is playing your goalkeeper, and you're like,
That's
well,
a very good point.
I'm already fucked.
There you go. There you go. I like that. Yeah, have your forward in a different league to your defenders.
Yeah.
There you go.
Otherwise, you're really pushing it for the Sorare gods. You're like, okay, I need him to score, but then I need a penalty save as well. Is it too much to ask?
It does happen.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Never ends well.
But I mean, yeah, just looking at that, I think the European options are so many tasty options, and now that the prices obviously are so low, you really can get some of these guys that aren't the big names. Like
That's
obviously
it.
your Trents are still going to be up there, but I think for someone like me, I can actually like get some really good value.
Yeah, and you can compete. There's like looking at Summers' scores right there. That's no different to most good forwards on the platform. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you've got a bit of an ETH balance that's building up. I mean, the number of times I've told you to pull the trigger on a player who has since like moved on to Saudi or done something like left his club. So I think you're right to just sit on that little nest egg. And I mean, prices are going to go a bit ballistic when the season starts because everyone is probably a bit hesitant at the moment. So you can get some good value by taking the risk right now. But I think you've had enough risk for one career.
I think we've spoken about this. Risk doesn't work well for me.
No, so
Every risk I've taken has just worked out awful.
I can just imagine like how we would be feeling right now about the Tadic
Tadic.
news if you'd spent 0.5 half an
Oh.
ETH on him and we're like, oh,
I think that could have been the final nail in the coffin somehow. I think.
there's been a lot of final nails in the coffin,
Yeah,
but this
it's
one,
true,
yeah,
still walking,
you set the coffin on fire at the point.
Yeah.
1, 0.
Who knows? He might have a good move, but I have a bad feeling that could be goodbye, Dusan.
Oh dear, not good, not
Yeah.
good. Okay, what's next?
Well, I think going to some Bigelow Sell Haze.
Bigelow sell highs. Hey, still can't do it.
You're really struggling with it.
Baked on a buttery, crispy crust.
Bigelow sell hay.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I think when you introduced it last week, you were like, Justin Bigelow and Sell Tom Hay. I was like, no,
Nope.
wrong.
Messed it up. Okay, I've got a couple this week. On the sell hay front, haven't got too many. Again, I think there's a lot of upside out there at the moment for players. I don't think there's too many. I guess the only thing you could be looking out for on the sell hay front is again those players where you just got that feeling that they might be tempted by a bit of money. There are those players where you're like, yep, I could totally see you just making a massive money move. Like Lukaku is a great example.
Yeah, 100%.
I would be very surprised if Lukaku doesn't end up in Saudi. He just fits the bill
He
for
fits
me.
it, 100%.
He lives the high life. He's always flashing the cash. He goes to the big name clubs. I feel like his ego couldn't handle not being alongside, Benzema or Ronaldo and those guys over there.
I think so. Although on that logic, though, every MLS player would be going because every MLS player is seemingly wanting to live the high life. They walk down like it's a red carpet on the way to a game. It's like a fashion show.
I'm glad you brought this up. I hate
Oh, it's the worst.
pre-game fashion,
Yeah.
like show-ups where they wear their outfits to arrive to the game.
Like Sebastian Blanco's in his jammy.
Yeah, just fuck off.
Oh, fuck off.
I don't need to see like you wearing a pantsuit
Yeah. It just
to go into the change room. Like, what are you doing?
it's literally from the walk from the bus
Yeah.
to the change room. That's all it is.
The car park.
It's
yeah.
a red carpet walkout. Like it's so strange and it's completely different to Australian football where us it's a suit. You wear like although, if you're sponsored by a suit, you rock up to the game in a suit.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that weirder?
Well, I know like Spurs had like Hugo Boss sponsored them and they all wore
Yeah.
like suits
Like
to
Man
the
City.
game. That makes a bit more
Man
sense.
City have all matching beige suits and but that
Yeah,
makes sense. Like
that-
you're professional.
That's right. That's more about just arriving in style as
Yeah,
a team.
and it's like it looks clinical. Whereas these guys, like he's got floppy hats on, and
floppy hats.
Druisi's rocking gold chains, and yeah,
Yeah. It's less like a football game and more like some episode of Zoolander.
I hate it. Yeah. So yeah, but
Okay. We'll get off that soapbox. Okay, so the only sell high I've got for you this weekend. Sell hay this weekend is Orkan Kokchu. Obviously, big transfer over the weekend, over the summer, moving to Benfica. And don't get me wrong, I do think he'll do well at Benfica. I think he'll slot into that kind of Enzo Fernandez role really well. I think he's going for like 0.6, 0.7 at the moment. I do remember telling you to pick one up at like 0.18 not that long ago. But hey,
that.
We live by the sword, die by the sword.
Imagine being a dickhead.
Could have gone to Saudi.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let's just live with that.
Yeah. I mean, he was primed to make a move to like a Chelsea or something like that. Benfica was like the best possible option.
He's going to crush.
So the reason I've got him on my sell hey list is the January transfer window is not that far away. And look what happened to Enzo Fernandez at Benfica.
This is true.
Played well for Benfica, 4 or 5 months. Had a contract with Benfica. That doesn't matter. Chelsea comes a knocking, and I can just see Kotcher's fitting that bill. The only thing I guess Kotcher doesn't have in his favour that Enzo did is that Kotcher doesn't have a World Cup coming up that he can go and Enzo burst onto the stage, scoring goals.
He won a World Cup.
He won a World Cup, yeah. But I just think Kotcher is one of those players where like Liverpool was looking at him, like a few different clubs that had their eye on him, and I think Benfica, we know they love to turn a profit. I could see them very easily being like, hey, 6 months work, couple of mil.
Good point. I mean, it's a good point because it's like a test. Can he match it at that level before someone invests on the higher stage? Yeah, it makes sense.
So I think if you're spending money on him now, you're going to get a good, at least 6 months out of him. But I just have this feeling that he could get a move.
But this is why
it would be less than favourable.
This is why sell hays are so hard. It's easy for us to sit here on our chairs and preach to the people and say, sell hay, sell hay. But then the problem is if you're in that situation, you own a cockchew. You're going, yeah, but I've got this amazing overpowered card that's going to be great. And like you lose the like long-sighted vision of, all the horrible things that are going to happen in the future. You just want to appreciate this nice little
That's right.
bubble.
Yeah, you want to roll him out at least once.
Yeah, you want to have that big dick energy. Of
absolutely.
Got you.
Yeah. Every weekend. Got you. So look, the sell highs are really just there to remind everyone that the good times don't always last, and that sometimes taking that profit and running is the best thing you can do, especially if you can put it towards some more value options, and you can that's the best way to really grow the gallery value over time.
I guess when you say value options, I guess you could almost say you could beige low.
You could Justin beige low if you want. If you must.
If you must.
Okay, well, that's a great segue, Simon. Thank you. Okay, a couple of beige lows for you this week. First one, Caden Clark. You may remember him from his New York Red Bull days. Came on the scene, kind of crushed it for Red Bulls. Everyone was talking about how he's the next big thing. Signed with Red Bull Salzburg, got loaned back to Red Bulls, burst his appendix, didn't really see him again for the rest of the season. He spent all of last year at Salzburg. I think he played a couple of bench minutes, didn't really do much. This is exactly the kind of player that is primed to get a loan move to some, lower table Eredivisie team or a Jupiler League team, or maybe even back to the MLS, in which case Caden Clark, could be an absolute smasher. So still pick him up for pretty cheap. I don't think I've seen any concrete rumours, but this is just one like the Xavier Mercier, where it's like, he's not going to stay at Salzburg this season. He's too young, too talented for them to just waste him on the bench. Cool.
Yeah, next.
Any thoughts?
No. I don't know. I don't really know who he is.
Fair enough. Okay.
I don't understand nothing. Today is I don't understand.
Yeah. All right. Next one on my list is Koki Machida. So J League fans will know this name very well. He used to crush for Antlers. He moved to Union Saint-Gilloise in the Jupiler League a couple of seasons ago. Pretty much just played on the bench. He has had a couple of starts, and each time he's started, he's scored like 60 or 70 points on the Sorare front. So can be a Sorare beast, just needs some minutes. They've sold both of their centre-backs, I believe, and the door is open for him to step in and, cement a starting role. So Koki could be an absolute, crusher at the back for them this year, depending on how they go.
And now the next one is one that we've seen this show before. We've seen this show. Americans, they crush it in the MLS. Everyone goes, how good's this? They get their dream move. Good for them. Hip, hip, hooray. And then they die. And we've seen it. Tassi Castellanos, he's gone to Girona.
No, he's in Girona at the moment.
Yeah.
So I actually put this one on the list because he had that rumor to Benfica that died down, and his price died down as well, and I'm like, okay, he's going to get a move somewhere. If Benfica's a kind of landing spot for him, you'd think he's going to land somewhere in a Benfica type area. So that's why I put him on the buy low list, because I was like, Beige low list, because he's not really that low, but he's in that lull of like people have stopped talking about him. Now, I think as of like half an hour ago, it's been announced that I think he's going to Lazio in Italy, which now there's been rumors about Ciro Immobile going to Saudi. The like director of Lazio has come out and said, no, I'd rather sell my son.
This is my boy!
Which is hilarious.
That's a great quote.
Yeah. But there's no smoke without fire. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Immobile move on, in which case Castellanos is coming in at a pretty attacking team in Lazio, in Serie A. Could do well.
I don't think he would.
Yeah, maybe this is one for the Moon or Dune.
Yeah, definitely a Dune.
So he was a buy low until about half an hour ago. Now he's maybe even a sell high.
I'd probably say sell high. I think the Italy league's worse. I think he's going to struggle more.
There you go. This is the first time ever that we've had a beige low turn into a Tom Hay mid-episode.
Mid beige low. That's incredible. Yeah, no. I mean, we've just seen it so many times. Americans, they go over, they're not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still professional footballers, but we move on.
All right.
Yeah, so I think, obviously, first episode, apologies for the video quality. Don't have our normal setup that we have running, obviously, here in the flesh. But, both down in Melbourne. I'm sure tomorrow we'll go check out the heartbeat that is Australian football, Amy Park, home of Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, and Western United.
Yep. Do a bit of graffiti.
Yeah, might punch some babies.
Wear a puffer jacket.
Yeah.
Live the Melbourne life.
Basically live it up. But, it's good to have you in the flesh, sitting in our little armchairs here. You've got the Wolfsburg jersey, got the Melbourne City jersey, bringing together us three loves. I mean, week ahead, all looking pretty same old.
Yeah, I'm actually talking about my strategy. It's actually starting to come together where my mediocre awards that I've been winning have actually pieced together. I've now got 3 teams that I can run. I've got a good 240 team, got a good 270 team, and I've got a pretty poor America team. But as we know about America,
it's a team.
It's a team.
It's a
You're in
team
with a chance. So that's quite. I've actually got more super rare forwards that I know what to do with, which is a good problem to have. So.
It is funny in Sorare that sometimes you go through periods where you are completely lacking. And I don't know whether it's you overcompensate or it's just how it comes and goes.
Yeah.
You've got too many goalkeepers, then you've got no goalkeepers.
Yeah, I need to get rid of some of these goalkeepers.
Yeah, and then...
Oh, shit, I've only got one left.
Yeah. Because I feel like I've had that issue with forwards where right now I'm like, I've got all these mid-like forwards that are just fine. Whereas for a while I was like, I'll just take anyone that gets on the pitch. But...
Yep. No, love it. What about you, Simon? Safety first this
Safety
weekend?
first. Just rolling out the worst boys I can. Keep those hopes low. I don't want to get the hopes up. It's might put me in an early grave. So. Mauricio Pereira, I'm relying on you to do your thing and get me 40 points. And I haven't hit threshold in 2 months.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I've gone close a few times with no goalkeeper. Having a goalkeeper would definitely help the cause.
Yeah, I think you're pretty primed to hit that threshold next week once Kodjikaru is back.
Yeah,
for sure.
We'll be on. But anyway, mates, best of luck for the upcoming game week, and we'll catch you next time.
Ciao.